video, I am going to discuss about high-risk newborn. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Angels Nursing Decodes. The high-risk neonate is a newborn, regardless of gestational age or birth weight, who has a greater than average chance of morbidity or mortality because of conditions or circumstances superimposed on the normal course of events associated with birth and the adjustment to extrauterine existence. So, when the baby is born, the baby will be coming to the extrauterine environment. In certain cases, the baby will be finding difficulty to adjust with the extrauterine environment, and they were high risk for morbidity and mortality rates. So those infants or the neonates are considered as high-risk neonate. Definition: any baby exposed to any conditions that make the survival rate of the neonate at danger is considered as high-risk neonate. High-risk newborn can be defined as a newborn, regardless of birth weight, size or gestational age, who has a greater chance of morbidity, especially within the first 28 days of life. High-risk newborn includes the babies who are having critical conditions or like low birth weight, and number of causes will be there which makes the baby to survive in the first 28 days of life. High-risk period. The high-risk period encompasses human growth and development from the time of viability up to 28 days following birth and includes threats to life and health that occurs during the prenatal, perinatal and postnatal periods. So the high-risk period is from the birth till 28 days. So in these days the baby will be chances for high risk or prone to get number of infections or like so many threats in their life. So this time duration, that is from the birth till the 28 days of following birth, is considered as high risk period. Classification of high risk newborn. This classification is classified under 4 categories. So the first is according to size, second one according to gestational age, third according to mortality, fourth according to pathological conditions. First, according to size. It is classified under 9 types. First is low birth weight, second one very low birth weight, third extreme low birth weight, fourth appropriate for gestational age, fifth small for date, sixth intrauterine growth restriction, seventh symmetric intrauterine growth retardation, 8th asymmetric intrauterine growth retardation, and the 9th is large for gestational age. So the first is low birth weight infant. So if a baby whose birth weight is less than 2.5 kg or 2500 gram regardless of gestational age is considered as low birth weight infant. Second is very low birth weight infant. A baby whose birth weight is less than 1500 gram is considered as very low birth weight. Third, extremely low birth weight infant. A baby whose birth weight is less than 1000 gram is considered as extremely low birth weight infant. Fourth, appropriate for gestational age or AGA infant. Here, the infant whose birth weight falls between 10th and 90th percentiles on intrauterine growth curves. Next is small for gestational age or small for date. Here the infant whose rate of intrauterine growth was slowed and whose birth weight falls below the 10th percentile on intrauterine curve. In this curve you can see if the baby is having the growth between 10th and 90th percentile means it is considered as appropriate for gestational age. If it is going down 10th percentile, then it is considered as small for gestational age, and if it is going above 90th percentile, then it is considered as large for gestational age. Intrauterine growth retardation. Babies who do not grow adequately in the uterus, then the baby is considered as intrauterine growth retardation. 7th is symmetric IUGR. First is normal peak. In the second peak it is mentioned the baby is having small head as well as small abdomen. That means throughout the body the development is decreased. Hence it is considered as symmetric IUGR. Next is asymmetric IUGR. Here the head is normal but the body is small. While comparing the abdomen, it is small and the head is normal. Hence it is considered as asymmetric IUGR. Launch for gestational age infant. Here the infant whose birth weight falls above the 10th percentile. Next, according to gestational age. So according to gestational age, it is classified into 4 types: preterm, full term, late preterm, post-term or post-mature. So preterm or premature infant. If a baby born before the completion of 37 weeks of gestation regardless of birth weight, then the baby is considered as preterm infant. Full term infant. Here the baby is born between the 38 weeks of gestation and completion of 42 weeks of gestation. Next, post-term or post-mature infant. Here the infant born after 42 weeks of gestational age regardless of birth weight. Next, near-term or late preterm infant. Here the baby is born between 34 weeks of gestational age and 36 weeks of gestational age regardless of birth weight. Next, according to mortality. So it is classified as follows: live birth, fetal death, neonatal death, perinatal mortality and HIV mortality. So live birth, birth in which the neonate manifests any heartbeat, breathes or displays voluntary movement regardless of gestational age. That means if the baby is having normal heart rate, respiratory pattern and movements will be there, everything will be fine, then the newborn is considered as live birth. Fetal death. The death of the fetus occurs after the 20 weeks of gestation and before delivery with the absence of any signs of life after death. Next, neonatal death. If the death occurs in the first 27 days of life, early neonatal death occurs in first week of life and the late neonatal death occurs at 7 to 27 days. Next, perinatal mortality. The total number of fetal and early neonatal deaths per 1000 live birth. Next, neonatal mortality in HIV exposed infants. Death occurs to newborn of HIV mothers. Next, classification according to pathophysiological conditions. First is associated with the state of maturity of the infant. So if the baby is matured means the baby is having less risk for diseases, and in case of prematurity the chances are more. Next, chemical disturbances. If the baby is having hypoglycemia or hypocalcemia, then the baby is under high risk. Next, immature organs and systems. So due to immature organs and systems, the conditions that results are hyperbilirubinemia, respiratory distress, hypothermia and so on. Next, newborn exposed to HIV or AIDS, newborn with congenital anomalies. Next, predisposing factors. So what were the predisposing factors to get high-risk neonate? First is teenage pregnancy, that is the pregnancy between the age of 15 to 19 years. Second is elderly women. Third, multiple pregnancy, because here the baby need to share the nutrients, so there may be chances of risk. Next, hereditary. If the family history of any certain illness are there, then it will leads to certain diseases. Next, factors to define high risk infant. First is demographic social factors. The maternal age above 40 years, teenage marriage, physical stress and socio-economic status. Next, past medical history of mother such as diabetes mellitus, genetic disorders and hypertension. Third is previous pregnancy history like intrauterine death, neonatal death, intrauterine growth restriction and congenital malformation. Next, present pregnancy history like vaginal bleeding, pre-rupture of membrane, multiple gestation, pre-eclampsia and abnormal USG findings. Next, labor and delivery. Obstructed labor, fetal distress, forceps delivery, meconium stained like. Next, neonates. If the birth weight is above 4000 grams and gestational age 42 weeks, then small for gestational age, respiratory distress and congenital malformation. Common causes are high risk related to immature preterm infants, postterm infant causes, maternal infection, factors related to pregnancy and fetal factors. So the first is high risk related to immature preterm infants. So the etiology of preterm birth. Next, unknown maternal factors, then malnutrition, chronic diseases related to heart, renal and diabetes. Next, postterm infant causes include if the baby is having less vernix caseosa, then abundant scalp hair, long fingernails, then if the baby is having fetal distress associated with decreased efficiency of placenta, then macrosomia and meconium aspiration. Next, maternal infection. If the mother is infected with toxoplasmosis, hepatitis, measles, mumps or HIV infection, rubella infection, cytomegalovirus infection, herpes simplex virus infection, syphilis, etc., then the baby is also affected. Next, factors related to pregnancy. Example, hypertension, abruptio placenta or placenta previa, incompetent cervix, then premature rupture of membrane, chorioamniotitis, polyhydramnios. So these terminologies you will be familiar, I think. Abruptio, anyway I will be repeating again. Abruptio placenta means detached placenta. Placenta previa means the placenta will be present near the cervix of the uterus. Next, incompetent cervix means the cervix is not competent. Next, premature rupture of membrane, that is before the time the rupture of membrane will occur. Next, chorioamniotitis means the chorion and the amnion layer is infected. Next, polyhydramnios, increased amniotic fluid. Next, fetal factors. First is chromosomal abnormalities, then intrauterine infection, anatomic abnormalities. Next, we can see how we can identify the high-risk newborn. First is heart rate. Tachycardia, if the heart rate is more than 160 beats per minute, and bradycardia if it is less than 120 beats per minute. Next, respiratory pattern. We have to observe for abnormal respiratory patterns such as like grunting, gasping, apnea, etc. And if the respiration is going above 60 breaths per minute, it should be considered. Next, temperature. Either hypothermic or pyrexia. Hypothermic means less than normal body temperature. Pyrexia means more than normal temperature. Next, activity. Whether the infant is lethargic, hypotonic, less active, or if the baby is having any jittery with abnormal movements, etc., that should be observed. Next, color. The infant may be pale, then cyanosed, yellowish discoloration means jaundice. Next, assessment of high-risk newborn. Here Apgar score, you all know A for appearance, P for pulse, G for grimace, A for activity, R for respiration. So if the baby is pink in color means we can give score 2. Extremities blue and body pink means score 1. Bluish discoloration means 0. And if the pulse rate is more than 100 beats per minute, it is considered normal and the score is 2. And if it is less than 100 beats per minute, the score is 1. And if absence of pulse means 0. And if the baby cries and pulls away means score 2. Grimaces or weak cry, score 1. No response to stimulation, score 0. Next, activity. Active movement, score 2. Score 1 is given if the arms and legs are flexed and no movements means 0. And strong cry, score 2. Slow and irregular means score 1. No breathing, score 0. Here in this pic we can see what all the things we have to assess. The first is Apgar score, then circulatory system, that is how the circulatory system is functioning. Next, third is temperature. Next we can see the breathing pattern, respiratory system functioning, then general characteristics. Just go through the pic. Okay. Next is management of high risk infant. How we can manage? So the temperature. First we have to minimize cold stress, maintain skin temperature that is between 36.1 to 36.7 degrees centigrade. Continuously monitor the temperature, prevent rapid warming or cooling. Then use a cap to prevent heat loss from head. Next is nutrition. Detect hypoglycemia immediately. Maintain oral feedings. Orogastric tube feedings can be initiated. Next, assess for residual bowel sounds, change in stool pattern, abdominal girth, and monitor weight gain or loss. Next, respiratory function. Assess the respiratory effort. Position to promote oxygenation. Maintain respiratory tract patency. Stimulate breathing. If apnea is there, then monitor oxygen therapy. Next is we can see the 6 steps in management. First is temperature regulation. Second one, nutrition and fluid maintenance. Third is testing and laboratory procedure. Next, intravenous lines and tubes, procedures and equipments, and special care. First is thermoregulation. So we have to classify the hypothermia. Okay, first normal means 36.5 to 37.3 degrees Celsius. Cold stress means 36 to 36.4 degrees Celsius. Moderate hypothermia, it is between 32 to 35.9 degrees centigrade. And if it is severe means it is below 32 degrees centigrade. So from the body the heat is lost by the mechanisms such as radiation, convection, evaporation, conduction. Radiation means like in the environment, if the cool environment is there, it will take the heat. Next, conduction means by touching the body. Then convection, the air from outside will reach the body and it will go. Next, evaporation. So in case of radiant warmer, these mechanisms are controlled and the baby will be getting continuous warmness so that the baby can maintain the normal body temperature. These processes happen in radiant warmer. Next, methods of thermoregulation. First is immediate drying, next warming after delivery. Radiant warmer such as incubator or isolate can be used. Next, hydration. Intravenous fluids for calories, electrolytes and water should be administered. The drop factors it is mentioned here, just go through it. Next is type of fluids. Next, factors affecting IV flow rates. Next, nutrition. So, no coordination of sucking until 3 to 6 weeks, then non-synchronized until 3 to 6 weeks, or gag reflex not developed until 3 to 6 weeks means we have to go for NG tube feeding or any other methods. So, enteral feeding it can be initiated. Next, the breastfeeding. What all the benefits of breast milk? First, it lowers sudden infant death syndrome. First is lowers its risk, that is sudden infant death syndrome. Next, reduces the risk of cancer. It helps the mother to gain weight loss, increases IQ level, boosts immune system, and supports baby's growth and development. Next, we can see the difference between breastfeeding and formula feeding. Breastfeeding enhances the natural immunity. It reduces the risk of allergies, improves mother-child bonding relationship, and weight normalization for the mother. Next, formula feeding. It has high sugar exposure, then increased allergic risk, synthetic vitamins. Next, increased risk fat deficiency. Next, intravenous lines and tubes. You can see the various intravenous IV lines and tubes here. So, the first is in peripheral veins they are doing, second one femoral, and the third is umbilical vein. Central lines and intravenous line sites are mentioned here. Next, IV lines common issues. First is infiltration. Next, phlebitis. Third, hypothermia. Fourth is local infection. Next, procedures and equipments. So, the testing and laboratory procedures include blood group checking, complete blood count, arterial blood gas analysis, blood sugar level, electrolyte level, blood smear test, and X-ray. These procedures should be done for further evaluation. Next, the procedures and equipments involved in high-risk newborn care is phototherapy lamps, then temperature monitor, ECG and blood pressure monitor, intravenous infusion pump, umbilical artery or catheter. Next, intravenous infusion pump we have seen already. Next, saturation monitor, that is the blood saturation with oxygen. Next, feeding tube, and the last is ventilator. Next, other equipments involved are USG, X-ray, computer tomography, magnetic resonance imaging, and ECMO. Next, special care. Resuscitate the infant if needed, then immediately treat the abnormal signs, and in case of cyanosis, administer oxygen. Next, attempt to make diagnosis of the cause of clinical signs. Next, treat the cause if possible. Provide supportive care to the infant. Next, monitor vital signs. Discuss the problem with the parents. Decide whether to transfer the infant to the level 2 or level 3 nursery. Next, categorize for follow-up. So, just go through it. Next, follow-up schedule. 2 weeks after discharge, then after 6, 10, 14 weeks of postnatal age, at 3, 6, 9, 12 and 18 months of corrected age, and 6 monthly visit until the age of 5 years. Follow-up, assess for feeding and dietary counseling, growth monitoring, developmental assessment, immunization, ongoing problems, then neurological assessment, eye evaluation and hearing evaluation. So I hope you all understood about the topic. Thank you for watching, and those who didn't subscribe to my channel, please subscribe. Thank you.